Alrighty. Hi, everyone. My name is Shelby Pulse. I'm a prevention program manager with Breakout Counseling. So I oversee our drop-in centers. We have one in Dover, one in Milford. We also have one in Lancaster, in Wilmington. It's on our Lancaster Avenue location. And then I also oversee our unhoused outreach programs for Kent, Sussex County. You can go to the next slide. If you're not familiar with Brandywine Counseling, we are a statewide organization. We do an array of services, but they're primarily centered around education, prevention, early intervention, treatment, and justice involved services for individuals or families who are experiencing mental illness or substance use disorder. You can go to the next slide. So we have two unhoused outreach programs. Our first one is our Home for Good program, and this is just a gist of what we do. But this, you either have to be homeless or experiencing homelessness. So this can be like facing risk of eviction. And then we are pretty much there to provide assistance and meet the gaps. So we can provide resources, emergency supplies. So that's like tents, tarps, blankets, food, clothing, whatever they might need. And then the end goal is to connect them to housing and help them maintain their stability. We can go to the next slide. We also have a PATH program as well. Same thing, they just have to be already experiencing homelessness or at risk of experiencing homelessness. And then we offer the same type of services. PATH specifically is a little bit more case manager based, so there's a ton of referrals and a little bit more options that they're able to provide them. But the ultimate end goal is to connect them to housing as well. I have contact information at the end of the presentation. Feel free to grab it because we do have referral forms for both of these programs. So I can connect with you offline after this. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so what to expect? This is our fourth year having our unhoused outreach programs on our fourth year helping with PIT. This is just specifically kind of what our agency has seen and how we navigate it. So if you're another organization and you have different guidelines, absolutely do your thing. This is just how we operate, so it's just some suggestions. So an individual or family will consider this space their home, so we want to be really respectful of how we're providing etiquette when we're entering encampments. Most often you're going to enter a wooded area and it can be deep, so it won't necessarily be you walking in. You might actually have to walk a little bit in. Sometimes we walk like a full mile into encampments. It just keeps kind of spreading out the further that you go in. There's often an entrance and you'll typically see a trail. It's either something that's already existing or you kind of see that it's man-made, like people have been stepping over it a lot. Some encampments are well kept, some are not, but again, this is what they consider their home, so we just want to be respectful of the space that they're in. You may see paraphernalia or alcohol that is either just seeing it out, or you might see someone actively using. If they are actively using, you just kind of want to feel it out. If you need to give them space to do what they're doing, give them space to do what they're doing, and then circle back. You also may see makeshift bathrooms. So these are often holes that you'll see, or it might just be on the ground. So you really want to watch where you're walking. And then again, you may see individuals who are under the influence. So you just want to use your best judgment, whether it's a good opportunity for you to provide a survey, or maybe you kind of want to grab a couple other people and then circle back to them. We can go to the next slide.
Yep. We do have one question in the chat so far. Miriam asked if referring people to Brandywine Counseling is part of what we're doing as pit volunteers. So no, the first part, I always like to give anybody who presents for us some time to just talk a little bit about and educate people on the programs that they operate. And part of that is to kind of let you know what kind of experience Brandywine Counseling has. The main reason that Shelby is talking to you guys today about outreach is to prep anybody who may be going into encampments for what to expect when they are in an encampment surveying people. Most of our outdoor teams that are going to encampments are like agency staff, but in the event that there is a non-agency staff going into an encampment, we like to make sure that you guys are prepared for that. And also just to help you guys understand what to look out for. Because even if we don't have, like, there might be spaces that we don't have on our known locations list that you might come across and want to check out through what you're surveying. Should we still capture the number even if we are unable to complete a survey? No. We always like people to give us, or, so the question was, should we still capture the number of people if we're unable to complete a survey? You can definitely write down where you saw people and around how many you think that you saw. And we will then provide that to some of our select teams that are going out the following morning to see if we can get them then. But lots of times we capture anybody who might have been in a tent the night before if they were already hunkered down for the night. We do tend to see them the following day at service centers. So no observation forms are needed or anything like that, like we've done in prior years. But if you were unable to survey somebody and you know where they're at, just note that down, and then we can pass that on to outreach teams for the following day, but also in general to help connect them to services as they need them. Okay. Shelby, you ready to go to the next slide? Perfect.
Alrighty, so when entering an encampment, again, so one thing you want to remember is this is somebody's home, so you wouldn't just barge into someone's home. You don't want to enter the space quickly. You want to go at like a relatively normal pace. You want to approach with a calm and relaxed demeanor. But when you're doing this, you want to start announcing who you are. So typically when my team is going in, they'll say, hey, this is Shelby from Brandywine. So they already know my name. They know what agency I'm with. If you're not with an agency, you could just say, hey, I'm Shelby, I'm with the point in time count. You just want to at least announce your name and at least announce what you're kind of doing in that space. Um, and then you want to announce why you were there, whether you see the individuals or you're just seeing the tents. Because a lot of times when they hear you, you'll start to see them come out, or like one person will come out. You'll start to see it kind of domino effect, especially because sometimes it might just be one person. They hear what you guys are talking about, and other people around will realize they're interested in what you're doing. So don't feel like you're not going to run into anyone if you walk into an encampment and it's literally just tents. They might start trickling out. And then we'll kind of touch base. And I think it might be the next slide on what to do if that doesn't happen. But we can go to the next slide. Okay, so street outreach is relatively the same. So street outreach is going to be anything outside of the encampment. So this could be like if you're driving through a Wawa, they're really known areas where we're finding someone. If we're just sometimes you'll be driving down the road and you'll kind of see them because they're walking to their campsite. So that's what your street outreach would be. Same thing, you want to be prepared to announce who you are right away. Always keep a safe distance so you don't, again, want to approach rapidly. Smile while you walk. You don't have to literally do that. But again, that's just where you want to come in with that calm demeanor and just have like a welcoming presence. You may see individuals under the influence. Again, that's when you want to use your best judgment, whether you should approach it or kind of circle back later. And then be mindful who you take directions from. So I know earlier they had talked about groups. You kind of want to have a buddy, at least one that you have eyes on the whole night. Eyes on your buddy eyes on you. So if someone is asking you to come over here or go this way and it's going to take you out of eyesight from your buddy, don't do it. You always want to be in eyesight of someone and keeping that safe distance so you can maintain safety. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so same thing. Don't approach the space rapidly. Approach with a calm and relaxing demeanor. Announce your name. So same thing, even if you're doing it on street outreach, just hey, how you doing tonight? My name's Shelby. I'm with Brandywine Counseling. And then you want to announce why you're there as well. So we're just conducting the point in time count. We're doing surveys, just trying to collect some information. They might also ask why you're trying to collect the information. We usually just like to tell them it's so that we can continue funding so we can support services. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so just some safety tips. So this is kind of where I was saying if you're approaching tents and no one's answering, again, I know some agencies can do it differently, but we do not recommend safety checks. So unzipping or opening a tent. Again, it's just going to depend on who you work with and what the agency allows. But it's kind of the same way as like barging into somebody's home. It can be really tricky. This is where like the line can get a little bit blurred if it's like a safety risk. Like if you can see someone in the tent, they do have like little window areas and they're not responding. It's kind of what you do in that situation. Again, we just like wouldn't recommend it at that point. Just call emergency services if you're concerned about their safety. Do not touch their personal belongings. I wouldn't want anyone digging through my bag, so I'm not going to dig through someone else's items. Um, be mind sorry, let me get the chat out of the way. Be mindful of your surroundings. So again, you might see waste, you might see needles on the ground as well. You might see weapons either on them or laying somewhere. And again, that's just where you want to read the room. So don't force engagement. And if you do not feel comfortable or if you feel safe, just go ahead and exit. So we have walked into an encampment before. This is very rare, so I don't want to scare you guys, but we have walked into an encampment before. This guy was just swinging an axe around. We just kind of said, "Hi, do you need anything?" They said no, and we just left. We just didn't want to get any further involved in that. So again, just read the room. If anything's making you feel uncomfortable, if you have a gut feeling about something, just go ahead and exit the area. And we can go to the next slide.
Sam, I will answer. So once we get to the actual survey administration part, I will answer that question. So I'm just going to put a pin in it for now.
Okay, so kind of what to do. Again, this is not definitely something that you're going to run into when you go out into an encampment, but it does happen sometimes. So if you're running into an individual who is combative, they're not having a good night, they might have be under the influence. Again, this is where you want to have your partner for the night. You want to make sure you're in pairs. You always want to have eyes on your buddy. Um, do not fight back. Again, this is like where your gut instincts kick in. And if you need to leave, just go ahead and exit the area. If it does try to get physical, obviously that's like when we want to call emergency services. If you approach an individual who's experiencing a crisis, so this could be like a mental health crisis, again, make sure you're in pairs. I will keep repeating that because I cannot emphasize how important that is to make sure that you have eyes on somebody else, especially with the hours that you'll be out. Um, Check to see if a professional is near or if you're the professional who feels comfortable helping with the mental health crisis and de-escalating. Exit the area if you need to, and then call 911 if necessary. If you don't feel comfortable like staying with the person during a mental health crisis to the point that you do need to call emergency services, we just recommend that you at least stand outside of the encampment or stand near wherever you're conducting street outreach just so you can point emergency services in the right direction. And then same thing with a medical emergency. Again, make sure you're in pairs. You always want to have someone have eyes on you. Use your discretion if you're certified. So this is like your CPR certification. Or again, if you're the person that's doing it, absolutely go ahead and perform it if you're comfortable. Or check to see if a professional is near, call 911. And same thing, if you don't feel comfortable staying with the person, just stand somewhere nearby so you can point them in the right direction. And we can go to the next slide. Okay, so being homeless alone is like a very traumatic event. So 9 times out of 10, the people that we are engaging with are going to be experiencing some type of mental illness or going through some type of trauma. So we just want to be trauma informed when we're connecting with them. So being trauma informed means recognizing an individual's history and needs to approach conversations about trauma and respect for their experience. So you want to remain respectful and encouraging of the experience that they share. You can thank them for even sharing those experiences. Stay focused on the purpose of the conversation, which a lot of times is just for them to get it out, but just try not to like make it too much about yourself, which I know can be difficult because you want to relate to them. But again, a lot of times they're just trying to get it out and they want someone to listen. And then the type of questions that you ask, you just want to be mindful of them. So instead of saying like, what's wrong with you? You can say what happened to you, what's going on, how can I help, how can I support? And these are just things that you might need to ask potentially if they're going through a mental health crisis. But again, sometimes you are just a comforting face for them and they feel comfortable sharing with you and they're gonna unload on you a little bit. So we just want to try to be supportive in those moments. And we can go to the next slide. And then how to engage. So we don't want to force them to talk because this can potentially re-traumatize them. So just let them say what they feel comfortable saying. You want to listen and allow them to talk without interruption. Create a safe space, and sometimes that can have to do with your body language. So you just want to be mindful about how you're standing, kind of where your hands are. Understand triggers. They are often unavoidable and uncontrollable, but if you kind of see that something might be causing them to get worked up a little bit or might make them upset, or again, you can tell with their body language, just try to veer the conversation, apologize if you need to. And then do not invalidate their trauma. What they consider to be a traumatic event is absolutely what they consider to be a traumatic event, and we do not get to take that away from them. So we can next slide. You go one after that. Okay, so again, this is just my contact information. This is my team's contact information as well. So if anyone needs that to connect afterwards, absolutely feel free to reach out to me. And then, Erin, at this point, we can open it up for questions.
I do want to reiterate that for most of the encampments that we know about, we are doing our best to have outreach workers or like day center workers, people who interact with unhoused people on a regular basis, be the people who are going to those encampments and doing the engagement. But there is a chance that other volunteer teams will come across or be assigned to go into an encampment that we know about. And some of this advice is just really good in terms of how to engage with people who are experiencing homelessness as you encounter them at Wawa's or things like that throughout the state. So this is not to scare anybody. So please don't feel that way. We are just trying to make sure that you are as prepared as possible for any of the outcomes or possible encounters that you might have during the pit count.
Hi, so my name is Carla. I just have one question. Um, is there a certain amount of pit counts we have to complete before the night ends, or just get done as many as we need to get done,
Yeah, so
or
you
we can get done?
the goal of the count is to count everybody experiencing homelessness in the state that we can find and come across and that's willing to be surveyed. So but it's a lot of people. So you will be assigned a specific team with a specific area to cover. So we try to, depending on the county, we try to make those areas as small as we can so that people really have time to look for people and take their time with the surveys as they're getting to it. But you will be provided a list of locations and you'll be in a team with other people as well, surveying a specific area. The goal again is to try to survey every person experiencing homelessness that you come across. But some people may not want to be surveyed. Some people might not come out of their tents or may have moved for the night. That does happen. People know the pit count's coming, so they'll move for the evening so that they're not bothered. That is why we do the next day count as well, to try to capture anybody who might have been missed the night before.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions about outreach and engagement for Shelby before I move on to a couple more slides and then the survey? All right. If anybody thinks of anything, feel free to put it in the chat as we move along. And again, we will be sending out all the slides and they are available in the training folder already. If you guys need Shelby's contact information or any of her team's information if you need to let them know where people are or send people for services. Wales know that surveying is going on, so they won't be confused if we have to call 911 or 918. So we don't do any type of coordination with like 911 operators the night of. We in the 8 years that I've worked for Housing Alliance, and this is the seventh account that I've planned, the we've only ever had somebody need to call 911 once. Um, so that it's not something that happens enough to where we feel the need to have to coordinate or let people know about that. Um, but it's a good question. And we will talk a little bit more about that in a couple other slides in kind of like what cases that you would feel the need to call 911. I believe in the one instance that it happened, somebody was laying on a sidewalk in the city of Wilmington and was clearly unresponsive and from the temperature that it was the night and the lack of layers that they had on, it was pretty clear that they were probably going to become or in the process of becoming hypothermic. So that's emergency services were called in that instance, but that has been the only time that that's happened to my knowledge the last 8 years. Is one come out or is that not a good resource? We don't have any contacts in mobile crisis. So we haven't asked them, but if anybody knows anybody in mobile crisis, and that has their contact information, I'd be happy to reach out to them to see if they would be willing to do encampments the night of. We really are focusing on getting the survey done, and not so much on providing services unless somebody is in active crisis or actively in danger. We do then also work with the outreach teams to provide location information specifically to them so that they can follow up on services after the count. But that it's a good recommendation, Robert. And if you have a contact or know anybody who does, I'd be happy to follow up on that. Okay. I'm not hearing or seeing any other questions. So I just have a couple more slides to get through for you guys. And then we are going to look at the actual survey and go through some of the survey guidance. As we get through some of these slides, I will be repeating and reiterating some information that we already covered in the main room and that Shelby just covered. That is on purpose. Again, the stuff that is being repeated multiple times is some of the most important stuff that we want you guys to remember and take away from the training. So please bear with me on that. So just to repeat, the county leads for each county are Amelia for Newcastle County, me for Kent County, and Sophie for Sussex County. We will also be the launch site leads for the general volunteer teams. Amelia will be doing the Newcastle County launch, which is going to be at the Hope Center, and the address is there. I will be launching our teams from Hopes and Dreams in Dover for Kent County, and Sophie will be launching the Sussex teams, non-agency Sussex teams from the Community Center Resource Center in Rehoboth. And again, you will get this information when you receive your final volunteer assignments. There are some select teams that are launching from other locations because they've coordinated that specifically with the county lead. Those are approved and granted on a case-by-case basis. So unless you have received a direct communication or have been in direct communication with myself, Amelia, or Sophie about launching from another location on the night of the count, we do expect to see you at each of these launch sites to receive your materials for the night of. So some roles and responsibilities for the Unsheltered count. So what you can expect out of your launch site lead. The launch site leads will be bringing all of the volunteer materials to the site and making sure all the teams receive their materials. We are going to be making sure that everybody signs in and everybody has completed a waiver or we have it on file that they've completed a waiver prior to leaving to survey. Um, we are going to review and complete a whole launch site checklist that you guys don't need to know more about, but there is some things that we need to make sure that we cover and tell you guys about before you leave. We will serve as the point of contact for all the team leads that are assigned to the launch site. So we work with all of the teams in advance to try to identify the person who's going to be the lead that would need to communicate with us if anything is going on. We are pretty adamant about it only being the team leads that communicate with us the night of, unless there's an emergency, so that we can limit the amount of messages and things and calls that we're getting into our inboxes. There are a lot of volunteers. There will probably be about 120 people that are participating on the night of. And so it's for 3 people. It's a lot of information to field. So if anything is happening or we need to know any information from any of the teams while we're out, we do ask it be specifically the lead that contacts us. Or if it's not the lead, one designated person from the team. Um, and at the end of the night, we will collect all of the materials back from you guys, including the known location lists. We are going to be pretty serious about receiving the known location lists back this year. They will be a physical copy that each team gets for their assigned area. But there has been an uptick in criminalization of homelessness over the last couple of years. And with everything going on with ICE and stuff these days, we really want to make sure that we are protecting the information and protecting what, for lack of better words, these people's homes. So we will be making sure that we get every single one of those lists back by the end of the night. And if we don't get the stuff back by the end of the night, we will be coordinating specifically with the team lead to make sure that we get it following the count within like the next couple of days. For team leads, you guys will, and we will identify these most of them before the count. There may be some people who get selected as their team lead or volunteers or team lead night of, but most people will know that they are going to be doing this role before arriving the night of the count. But you guys will be ensuring all team members have each other's cell phone numbers and the cell phone number of the site and the county leads. We will provide those in your volunteer assignments. We'll also have them on the sign-in sheets, but we just want to make sure everybody has everybody's contact information in case somebody gets separated or somebody's phone dies or things like that. We just want to make sure everybody is located at all times and able to contact or communicate outward if they need to. The team lead will also be the person driving the team and directing them to the known locations and ensuring all the locations within the assigned geography are covered. Sometimes the driver can be different from the team lead, and sometimes there's a separate navigator. I found the best way that it works out is there's the driver, and then there's either the lead or the navigator in the passenger seat that has the map and the list of locations, and they're helping the driver make sure that you guys get to all the locations within your area. The team lead should make sure that there are 2 passes of the locations within the team's assigned geography before returning to the launch site. People can arrive to their locations for the night at different times throughout the night. So we usually like to make sure that everybody does 2 passes of their area so that if somebody arrived a little bit later or is out of their tent when they get there or wherever they're staying, you have the opportunity to try to catch them. And the team lead also ensures that the site lead receives all the volunteer materials back at the end of the night, or will be coordinating with the site lead to make sure that they receive it following the count. We like to get all of those materials, particularly the surveys and the known locations list, back as soon as possible, because again, they contain confidential and personally identifying information. So we like to make sure that they're not just floating around out there. And for team members, everybody else, you will, your roles and responsibilities are just to survey anybody experiencing homelessness that you encounter at the known locations within your assigned area, and to provide those people with care bags. Again, to reiterate, individuals don't need to complete a survey in order to receive a care bag. If you see somebody in need, please give them a care bag while supplies last. And also team members, I was a Girl Scout for a very long time, and I'm a firm believer in the buddy system, and that is part of your guys' responsibility for the night of. As team members, you are going to make sure that no less than 2 people are approaching an individual or entering an encampment at a time. Please do not do anything completely by yourself, or let anybody else do anything by themselves for your own safety and for the safety of your team members. We have some do's and don'ts. And again, this is just going to reiterate some of the information that Shelby talked about. It has a little bit specific pit count stuff. So we do want you guys to lead with respect for the person and their space, because again, these are places that people consider their homes, even if they are not a physical house or apartment structure. Do clearly identify yourself as a pit volunteer. We will be providing some reflective vests for the outdoor teams, as well as some other identifying materials, but also make sure that you're verbally identifying yourself as a pit volunteer as you're approaching people. Do have a conversation with people that you encounter, and get consent to survey. One of the biggest things that happens that I think kind of puts people off of the count, aside from having to provide their personal information in the middle of the night, is that people kind of just read directly off the survey and don't really have a genuine interaction with somebody. So I always like to make sure that I am asking the questions from the survey in a conversational way, to make the person feel more comfortable, and just make them not feel like they're just getting a number and we don't care about anything else. So make sure you have conversations with people, and that they are consenting to do the survey. Do stay with your team and only enter an area to survey if you feel safe doing so. Do gather as much information as possible without being pushy, because again, some of it is personal information that people are just not comfortable sharing, and that's okay. Do share their responses to the person being surveyed if they want to see them. So if the person wants to see what you're writing down on their survey, you can let them look at it. It's their information. It's not a big secret or anything like that with the person whose information it is. Do provide care bags to everybody, regardless of their willingness to complete the survey. And the last one, I think, is part of, or one of the most important ones, is do prepare yourself mentally and emotionally. You will be seeing people who are in crisis, and people may be sharing distressing information. I think sometimes people underestimate the impact that walking into an encampment, or listening to some of the experiences from the people that you are serving will have on you personally. So please just prepare yourself as much as you can to before doing the count, because it can be you can have some emotional reactions to what you see and hear. As far as the don'ts, don't take photos of the site's locations or people being surveyed. Please respect them and their privacy. This is also a safety concern. So we do allow volunteers to take photos at the launch sites and together before they're surveying, but we absolutely do not allow any media into the places people are being surveyed, pictures of people being surveyed during the time that they are being surveyed, or any photos of the locations that could be used to locate that person in the future. There have been some times where there's been some encampment clearouts prior to the count, or right after the count, and we are making sure that as much as possible, that is not due to us and to the count, and that we are protecting people's safety and privacy as much as possible. So please do not do that. It's you do not want to be the reason that somebody becomes unsafe or has their privacy violated. Don't share location information outside of your team. Again, it's private, and we do not want our surveying effort to be the reason that somebody's home gets cleared out. So do not share that, and we will be making sure we get it back at the end of the night. Don't hand the survey to the person to complete themselves. Volunteers should be the ones asking the questions as written, and that's to ensure that we're getting the most accurate, legible, and consistent information collected. So they are allowed to see their responses after you've written them down, but don't just hand the survey to somebody to complete themselves. Don't assume that you know the answer to the survey questions or force people to answer any questions they don't want to. It's a volunteer survey, and they don't have to answer any questions that they don't want to. So please don't make people feel like they have to answer or give information that they're not required to. Don't insert yourself into people's stories. Don't prioritize or promise service delivery as part of the count. Again, it's a surveying effort, and we do provide some care bags, and we do help connect people with services after the count if if we know where they are. But the count itself is not a service delivery mechanism. And don't continue to survey somebody if you begin to feel unsafe. If you see somebody or feel like they're starting to get agitated or you start to feel unsafe in the space that you're in, you are allowed to stop surveying. Your guys' safety is the first priority. Again, just some points that I really want to reiterate about count safety is always stay with at least one person. Do not go or do anything by yourself or let anybody else go or do anything by themselves. Maintain awareness of your surroundings, where other people are, and ways to get in or out of whatever space that you're in. Don't turn your backs to people as well. I don't have that on here. It is in the count guidance document, but also don't turn your back on people. To the best of your ability, stay in places that are lit. And if you are using a flashlight, like if you are going into like a wooded area or a darker area, be as respectful as possible about that, and please don't shine it in anybody's faces or anything like that. People really don't like that. Prioritize your own safety. Again, if you don't feel safe approaching somebody or
Okay,
going somewhere,
hold on.
don't go. Also, don't transport anyone other than volunteers, your team members if you're a driver. Don't transport anybody anywhere in your team's vehicle. That's just a liability. And again, this is not a service-based effort. It's a survey-based effort, so we're not transporting anybody anywhere. If someone you encounter is not responsive when you approach, don't panic. They might just be asleep and not want to be bothered. You can do, to the best of your ability, check to see if you can see or hear them breathing. And you can assess whether they have enough layers on based on the temperature. To kind of like ease your worries to help identify if you think they're okay or not. If you're still concerned, you can ask them to either make a sound or move so that you can make sure that they're okay. I only recommend that if you have very serious concerns that somebody is not okay, because again, we're not trying to bother people that don't want to be bothered. But I wouldn't don't touch anybody and don't do anything like that. But you can try to get a verbal or a physical cue that they're okay. And in the event that you think somebody is really not okay or you feel like you're in serious danger, we do always expect you guys to call 911. Again, this has only ever happened one time in the last 8 years, to my knowledge. So it's not to scare you, but we do recommend that you call 911 in the event that it's needed. Some examples of some of the locations that you guys will be visiting as part of the Unsheltered count will be parks and campgrounds, back streets or alleyways, around downtown, both in Dover, in some of the areas like Georgetown, and Seaford, as well as Wilmington, underbridge overpasses, waterfront areas, parking lots, busy intersections. Depending on when you guys launch, there might still be some people who are panhandling out. Some people will be visiting transit centers, both for buses and for trains. There will be encampments. Some people might be visiting some abandoned buildings or structures, wooded areas, and some areas that we considered like 24-hour establishments like ERs, rest stops, gas stations, gyms, etc. And again, you'll get a list of the actual addresses and locations. Some frequently asked questions that we get every year is how will I know where to look? And again, you guys will be getting maps with assigned zones, as well as a list of locations. What if you can't find anybody? That happens every year and it's okay. If you visited all of the locations in your zone at least twice, you can return to your launch site and just notify the site lead that you didn't find anybody. That's okay. If you don't find anybody, that's a good thing. That means hopefully there's not as many people outside as we had last year. What if I know a location that isn't listed on the map? So we work really hard to identify as many known locations as possible before the count, but people are transient and may move or be in places that we don't know about. If you're out surveying and you remember a location, visit it if it's in your assigned zone. If it's not in your assigned zone, send the information to the site lead, and they will provide that to the team covering the area. So you may, team leads, just be aware, you may get some text throughout the night of some additional areas to add to your list if we receive that from other teams. Can volunteers carpool? So yes, a majority of teams need to travel together in one vehicle to cover their assigned zones. Again, we work to try to identify everybody who is willing to be a driver before the count. But in the event that we haven't gotten to do that, we do encourage you guys to talk to each other in advance after you receive your volunteer assignment, and to see who a driver could be or a backup driver if you need one. Can you bring additional people with you? Not without proper notification. More volunteers are always welcome, but unexpected additions may cause some logistical issues for site leads and teams. If you want to create a team or bring additional volunteers, please have them complete the volunteer form before next Wednesday, or reach out to the COC staff as soon as possible, so we can try to accommodate your request. At a certain point, we will have to turn volunteers away because there will be too many people for the amount of coverage and things that we need to do. So more is not always best. And we do have a certain number we don't want you not to have anything to do. And we don't want it to cause any more issues for us. Will you have a safe way of identifying yourself? Yes. Again, we will be providing reflective safety vests, flashlights, and some other items so that you can identify yourself as pit volunteers. We also encourage you guys generally just to wear bright colors that are visible at night if you have anything bright in your wardrobe, anything that can make you more visible to anybody that you're approaching. And that's it. I will go over some of the household information in just a second. But does anybody have any questions about anything that I just went over before we look at the actual survey? Okay.
Hey, I have a quick question. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I know that it's not a service provision effort, but I'm wondering, are there resources that we are able to share while we are engaging them if they're interested in support, other than, the centralized intake line or Is there a resource sheet that we'll have that we can share with folks?
Um, we try to make those each year, when if and when we have time. So the long answer and the short answer are both maybe. If there are, I know, Danny, you will definitely have some information about VA resources. I know Karen's coming to my site along with Chris Peters. If there's any VA specific stuff that you want to bring to your launch site to let volunteers hand out in case they come across any veterans, I know I'll be doing that in Kent County. We do have a long list of stuff on our homeless helpline webpage now that we try to keep pretty up to date. So we may try to print some of that information off. But if there's anybody who wants to bring in any service related information to hand out to people along with the care bags the night of, feel free to do so. We just don't want it to, we do not want the conversations about services to derail the actual administration of the survey.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I do see a question in the chat. Best practice, if we see someone we know, does this need to be reported? Samaya, in just general, if you see somebody that you know that's experiencing homelessness, or could you provide a little bit more context on that?
Sorry. So as we're going through to the encampments, yes, if we're on a team and we see either someone that we're related to or someone that we know, like, are we to still, is it okay for us to continue with the survey, or would you like us to kind of have one of our other team members? I just wasn't clear on if it would be a conflict of any sort.
Yeah, so as long as you have a good relationship with the person, and you feel comfortable providing the survey, and you think that they would be comfortable, like, with you knowing that they are in that situation, then I'd say feel free to be the person who administers the survey. If any of those, and if any of the above are not true, then I would, recommend that one of the team members completes the survey. So if you don't have a good relationship with the person, you're uncomfortable surveying them, or you think they would be uncomfortable with you knowing that they're in this situation and providing personal information to you, go ahead and let one of the other team members do it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And for Lauren, yes, we will be posting the training to the website. Everything but the recordings is already in the training folder, and I will be sending out the links and stuff to that again. And we will be sending out the training materials to all of the volunteers directly as well.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
Will you guys be notifying local law enforcement that we're going to be out that night doing these
So,
surveys?
in every year prior, we have done that. This year, we are choosing specifically not to do that because in a couple given counties, we have heard from different homeless service providers that relationships between law enforcement and people experiencing homelessness is becoming increasingly tense. And we have been hearing about some upticks in criminalization, like encampment clearouts and like arrests and things like that. So we, in an effort to better protect the people that we are going to be surveying, we are not notifying law enforcement this year.
Okay, thanks.
I will say from the main room, that is why we do recommend that you guys have your IDs and stuff on you in case you do get pulled over or stopped by somebody. If you do get stopped and the cop asks for the known locations list, don't give it to them. Please don't give it to them. That would be like a very worst case scenario. Obviously, I understand, given today's climate, you may or may not be put in a situation where you don't have a choice. But if the choice is there, please maintain the privacy of that information. And we've only ever had 2 people encounter cops the last couple of years. There was a cop that stopped people driving around the Walmart parking lot because they kept stopping and going. So to them, to the police officer, it looked like they were a little being a little sketchy. And then somebody got pulled over for speeding on their way home one night. But it's not a super common occurrence
Okay.
in prior years. This year, I'm not so sure, but we're gonna do our best to try to make sure that everybody stays safe during the count.
Okay. Alrighty, thanks.
You're welcome. All right, for time purposes, it is 3:45, so I am gonna go ahead and go over the actual survey with you guys. And then if you guys have any more questions after we go through the survey, I am happy to stay on as long as you need to go over those. All right, so I'm just gonna reshare my screen. All right, can everybody see the screen okay? You should see a survey on one side and some question instructions on the other side.
Yes. Mhm.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yes.
All right. So I am sharing these side by side because this year we did something a little different than we have done the previous years. In prior years, we've had what we were called training surveys, where we had kind of the instructions as comments on the side. But we've gotten some feedback that those are kind of hard to read when they're printed out, and they, to be honest, are really hard to edit on our end. So what we did this year was we just took all of those comments and instructions and we put them in a separate count guidance document that every team will receive. This count guidance document does reiterate some of the same information that you guys received during the training, like who the county leads are, arrival times at the launch sites, roles and responsibilities, the safety, do's and don'ts, and then we get to the survey question instructions. So you guys will have this available as you are doing the surveys. For the first part of the survey, there's this section up here that includes the surveyor name, county, city, town, and specific area. So it is super critical that we document who completed the survey and where the person was surveyed. Most volunteers choose to fill that out after finishing the survey with the participant and before surveying the next person. So you don't have to fill it out right away if you think it's going to take too much time while you have somebody standing right in front of you. But please don't forget to fill it out after the survey is complete. Then you move on to the consent statement. So consent must be given before the survey can be completed. Read the statements, then ask the person if they give consent to be surveyed. If they say no, thank them, give them a care bag and move on. So the consent statement is, I'm helping the Delaware Continuum of Care conduct a survey of people experiencing homelessness to better inform priorities, programs, and services, housing solutions. Completing the survey takes about 5 to 10 minutes and is completely voluntary. You can skip any questions you don't want to. It's also confidential. Personal information like your name, social security number, date of birth, etc. is not shared. It's collected to make sure that there's only one survey per person, and any of your responses won't impact access or eligibility for current programs or future programs and services. So once you read that, then you'll ask, do you consent to complete the 2026 pit count survey, or do you consent to be surveyed for the 2026 pit? And then you can check off yes or no. If the person, again, if they say no, you don't need to waste the survey. You can just end the interaction and move on. But if they say yes, you'll check that off, and then you can move on to the next questions. For current living situation, So surveys should only be completed with people who are experiencing unsheltered homelessness on the night of the pit. So if they are staying anywhere else that's not listed here, so if they're not staying in the streets, in a woods or encampment, bus or train station, under a bridge or overpass, if you don't encounter them at an ER urgent care waiting room, a vehicle or a camper, or in any type of abandoned building or structure. If you select other and they're staying somewhere else, you don't need to continue the survey with them. We are only interested in the people for the unsheltered count who are staying in unsheltered locations. So you would ask, where are you sleeping tonight? Sometimes people can have a little bit of a reaction to that. They can look at you like, we're here. This is where I'm staying. They can look at you like you're a little dumb. Just be prepared for that, and go ahead and ask the question anyway. Next, you're going to ask them how long they've been staying in that location. So we do need to know kind of how long they've been in that particular spot. So where are you sleeping tonight and how long have you been staying there? You are able to just read out the options, or if they give you a specific answer that kind of falls within one of these options, you can go ahead and select that. Sam, we're getting to the most important part for you, and to follow up on the question that you asked. So the next question is date of birth, age or age range. So this is the most important data point for the entire survey. This is the one thing that cannot be skipped. Well, I mean, these ones shouldn't be skipped either, but this is the one thing that absolutely cannot be skipped. If the person is uncomfortable with giving you their date of birth, you can collect their age or approximate age range. If we don't have one of those three things, this survey cannot be counted. We have to take it out of the pile. It won't count towards the count. So any other information that you collect becomes immediately unusable. That is a HUD like data collection rule for the pit count. So in terms of the bare minimum amount of information that you need to collect would be from number 3 up. So who completed the survey and where it was completed, and where you encountered the person, if they consent to be surveyed, and then the following 3 questions, that can be considered the bare minimum survey for the unsheltered count. Now, if you can get more information from people, you should actively try to get more information from people, and to complete the entire survey. But if you think you're going to have a hard time getting any additional information, or the person is just not interested in sharing any additional information, this part of the survey is what we need in order to be able to count the survey. Sam, did that answer your question?
Well, I didn't necessarily. I was trying to answer the question that came before my comment. I think somebody had asked about the amount of information that was required. I just wanted you to chime in because I had spoke with Amelia and Rachel and Stephen, because we are kind of coordinating our efforts at the Christina Park area. But I thought I heard on that call that if there's a tent with 5 people in it and all 5 people don't come out, I thought that there was a sense that if we can, confirm that there's 5 people and maybe not get all of that information, like you said, question 3 and above, that we might still count them. But we're going to go with what you just said, Aaron, because I think that's appropriate. I think,
Yeah.
if it's HUD related, that we're going to go and stick with that.
Yeah, so usually, so to answer your question, to answer that question, we'll go into a bit more detail in the household section. But just to say it now, we try to get surveys from everybody over 18, at like a full survey. But minors don't require full surveys. If one of the adults comes out of the tent and there's 5 people in the tent that are staying in there, that adult does have the opportunity to provide just some base information for everybody who's staying with them that night. So you can still collect some of the information. And again, as long as we have we don't have to have their name, but as long as we have their date of birth, or age range, and then we can count them. So like if let's say it's a mom and it's a couple and a child in one tent, and the couple or the one adult and the child don't want to come out, you would ask the person you are surveying for just some of this base information, and then those two people would get counted even if they don't want to complete full surveys. Does that make sense? I'm not hearing a no. So hopefully, yes. All right. We do ask people for their names. So that's pretty standard, but they don't have to provide it if they don't want to. For social security numbers, this is the most important data point for deduplication. It's the most important data point to ensure people are only counted once. But it is a hard question to ask and a hard question to collect information for. Ask the person if they're comfortable giving their social security number or at least the last four at a minimum. I find that people who don't want to give their full social are usually pretty comfortable giving their last four. If needed, you can reiterate that the social security number is only collected for deduplication. It's kept confidential and it isn't utilized for any other purpose aside to make sure that their survey counts for them and them alone. But if they don't want to give it, either the full or the last four, don't be pushy, and you can skip it if needed. We don't want this to be the reason that somebody doesn't, who is willing to complete the rest of the survey, then becomes unwilling to provide any additional information. For question 9, this is asking somebody if they are currently fleeing domestic violence, sexual assault, dating violence, or stalking. So this is a very sensitive question and can actively cause harm to the person being surveyed, especially if that person is currently with the person who is perpetuating violence against them. Do not ask this in front of other people, including household members, because again, one of those household members could be somebody who is currently or previously perpetuated violence against the person that you're surveying. If privacy isn't available, let the person read the question instead of asking it aloud. If needed, you can reiterate that personally identifiable information, including survivor status. You don't have to say that. But this question is kept confidential. It's de-identified after collection, and it's not shared. So this will not be connected specifically to the person once the data is entered into the system. And we do keep surveys under lock and key with in the office once we receive them back. For question 10 through 13, these are all questions that try to pinpoint somebody's like history of homelessness. And they also tend to be the hardest questions for people to answer. You should make sure to tell participants that the responses don't need to be exact and can be their best guess or approximate answer. However, writing vague answers, like here and there for where they were sleeping before their location on the night of the count, or writing on and off for like the length of time that they've been experiencing homelessness for any of these responses is really not helpful. And that like negates the purpose of the question or the survey. So even though it can be a best guess or approximation, you do need to ask them to identify a single location in terms of where they were previously staying, and specific approximations for how long that they've been homeless. So when you ask like where were you sleeping before tonight's spot and for how long, if they were like, oh, here and there, on and off, like that, we can't use that and it's not helpful to write that down. So I would say, hey, like, please like ask them to give a specific location, and if they weren't sure for how long, you can be like, okay, well, would you say it was less than a week, 1 to 3 weeks, 4 to 11 months? And usually once you start reading out the options available, somebody will pick the option. But please, even if it's a guess or an approximation, make sure it's a specific answer and not a vague answer. Um, we do ask people, so 14 and 14A, if they're living with any disabling conditions. Most people will answer those questions, but if needed, you can again reiterate that personally identifiable disability information is kept confidential. It's de-identified after collection and it's not shared. So this is solely for the purpose of collecting statistics like I shared at the beginning of the training, where somebody, like, we just need to know how many people experiencing homelessness are people with disabilities, but we don't leave that information connected to the person in any personally identifiable way. And finally, we get to the adult household member questions. So you will, for question 15, ask how many of your household members are sleeping in the same location as you tonight. A household can be really anybody who considers themselves a household. It doesn't have to be a married couple. It doesn't have to be a heterosexual couple. It doesn't even have to be a couple. It can be an adult and like a minor, whether they are a guardian or whether it's a younger couple or unaccompanied minors. But really, anybody who considers themselves a household and is staying in the same location on the night of the count, that is when you will want to. Whoever is unmuted, can you please mute yourself? Thank you. So when you ask this question, they'll either say yes or no, and add the number of people who are the number of adults that are staying with them or the number of children that are staying with them. But they have to be sleeping in the same location as that person on the night of the count. If there's like a mom or a dad that you come across, and their kids are staying with an aunt, but they're staying outdoors that night, then that adult would be considered a single adult for the purpose of the count. I'm gonna go over some of the specific steps, and I do have those highlighted in a slide so that you can see it in bigger. But I am just gonna finish going through these instructions before I show you that. And that should be question 15. I will fix that. So if there's anybody listed for question 15, so if any additional household members are sleeping in the same location as the person being surveyed on the night of the count, you will flip the front page of the survey over and complete the table information on the next page for any of those household members. If the person is a single adult, ages 18 to 25, the PIT survey itself is complete, but you guys will move on to the supplemental youth count survey if the person's within that age range. And if the person's a single adult and they're over the age of 25, then you are just done surveying them. Unless they're within the city of Wilmington, and I will get to that in just a minute. So when you get to these, I'm actually gonna reshare this. When you get to households, so for adult household members, every adult that is over the age of 18 experiencing homelessness encountered during the PIT should be surveyed in full regardless of their household status. But if the person being surveyed has adult household members, again, staying in the same place as them on the night of the PIT, you have to do 3 steps. First, you have to enter each adult household member's information on the person being surveyed's adult household member page on page 2. So you have the survey for the person that you are completing the survey for. And then, so you'll have adult 1, which is the person you just did your survey for. And at the bottom of the page or on the back of the next page, you will fill in adult 2's information. So the reason that we do this is to connect the surveys. If you don't do that, then those people will both be considered single adults. Then you will go and complete a full survey with the second adult, and you will do the same thing to their survey. So on the last page of the survey, you'll then put adult 1's information there. So you can see that in this example, the person's a spouse, you have their information, and then on the second adults, again, you would have their spouse, and then you have their additional information. Does that make sense to people? This is what it looks like when you flip it over. So this would be adult one survey, adult two's information would be here. Then you would complete a full survey with adult two, and then adult one's information would be here. Is that clear? This is one of the most confusing parts of the survey, and people mess it up every year. So I just want to make sure that you guys understand that.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, adult one survey, when we're taking their information, we put adult two's information there. Is that how I'm
Yep.
guessing it?
Yep. So for adult one survey, you'll have adult two's information in the table on the back. For adult two survey, you'll have adult one's information in the table on the back.
Okay. And then same thing for the minors, or does that matter?
Yeah, that's my next one.
Gotcha.
So for minor household members, if the adults being surveyed have minors under 18 staying in the same place with them on the night of the pit, you will fill out if it's one adult, you'll just fill out the minor information on one adult's survey. If it's the same couple as before that has a minor staying with them, you're going to fill out the minor's information on both of the adults' survey, and that's how they get connected as a household. And I have an example of that. But before we move on to that example to show you, minors don't need a full pit survey completed unless they're unaccompanied, meaning that they are by themselves with no other person in their household that's over 18. And unaccompanied minors should have a full survey completed. So if it's somebody under 18 that's with their parents, their information just needs to be entered on their parents' survey. Whoever's unmuted, can we mute just for the background noise? Okay. So if we're using the same adults as before, as an example, we're looking at adult one survey. Adult two's information is on the adult table, and then the minor's information is on the minor's table. So this will be on the back side of your survey, and they will be side to side. So you'll have for adult one, you'll have adult two, and then minor one. When we go on to adult two's survey, you'll have adult one and then minor one. So the minor's information is repeated on both surveys. And then the adult's information is switched on depending on whose survey you're looking at. Does that make sense? I'm not hearing any no's. So if we're looking at households that are multiple households with multiple people, so if it's a single mom with like several children, then it would be the mom's information on the survey and then all of the children down here. If it is a multi-adult household or the mom has like an adult child, then the adult child's information and any other adult's information would be over here on the survey. Again, you will complete the table for each adult that's sleeping in the same location as the person being surveyed. Then you will complete the full survey for each adult listed. And then everybody in the household should be listed on the other, like their household member surveys. If anybody that you surveyed is between 18 and 25, once you finish completing pit surveys for all the adults in the household or the members of the household, you can then complete the supplemental youth count survey with anybody who is age 18 to 25. For minors, in the household, you'll complete the minors table. Minors do not need a full survey. So once you fill their information on an adult survey, then you can go ahead and move on to the supplemental youth survey if they are ages 13 to 17. Again, if they are 18, they will be considered an adult and should have a full survey, but they should still be connected to whatever adult they're with survey. And if it's a minor in a household, they don't get a full survey, but if they are unaccompanied, meaning they're just a minor that's out and about staying on their own, they should get a full survey. All of those instructions are reiterated at different points in the survey guidance and on the survey. I know that that's the most difficult part. If you are having any questions during the actual count, on kind of how to do that, or anything like that, you can also just feel free to call the county lead, and we can like walk you through that given situation when it comes to it. Sam, did that follow up on kind of what to do about somebody staying in a location that might not come out of their tent, but another person does? I don't know if Sam's still here. Maybe not. Okay. Again, all of that is reiterated here. The examples that I showed on the slides are also here as well. They're a little small, but they will be printed out for you guys, so that you have what that example looks like available to you on the night of the count. For those that are surveying in the city of Wilmington, like within the city limits, there will be an extra page on the PIT survey that has a few extra specific questions about the city of Wilmington residency that need to be answered. For these questions, and for the teams that will be covering those areas, you'll be notified, and you'll be the only ones that have these extra questions on your survey. So once you're kind of done filling out the information for the adults before you move on to the next one, you should also ask them the City of Wilmington questions. But this is only for people that are surveying within City of Wilmington limits. Lastly, there is the supplemental youth. Ooh. I don't know what I just did. There we go. There is the supplemental youth survey. So again, this survey should only be completed after you've already completed the main PIT surveys. The main PIT surveys are the most important priority information to collect. But if you come across anybody that you're surveying that's between the ages of 18 and 25, and any minors that are 13 to 17, or any unaccompanied minors, you will want to try to complete this survey, the supplemental youth survey. Please don't survey anybody that's under the age of 13. We don't need that information, but we are trying to get some information for a larger group of youth than we have in the past. We do ask that you get additional consent to complete the youth questions. So either the youth or the adult with them will consent to answering the supplemental questions. They can also consent to being contacted by the youth surveyors if follow-up information is needed, but that's not required. And they can also, if they don't want to answer the questions at that moment, but they're open to being contacted at a later date for youth surveyors to collect that information, they can also consent to that. In which case, for either of these two, you would collect their email and their phone number. That's not required. And then you could have somebody who just doesn't consent to be surveyed. And again, you would just thank them and move on. For the demographics, you don't need to re-ask this information. This information does match the rest, what is on their PIT survey. So if you've already completed the PIT survey with them like you should and were supposed to, you should already have their name, social, demographic information if they were willing to give that. So we do ask that you just after you're done talking to the person, you just fill out their information that can be matched to their PIT survey. The amount of supplemental questions, there is about 24 of them, and you'll ask them and have them answer the questions. For questions 2 and 3, again, if the person's 18 to 25 and they have a full PIT survey already, you don't need to re-ask this question. You can just use their PIT survey responses to fill that in. But if they're a minor and they don't have a full survey, then you would just select one of the responses from below. And all of the other questions are pretty straightforward. The last piece for the supplemental use survey is if the participant, like the survey participant, is a household minor, we do ask that you just connect their youth survey to one of the adults in their household. So you can, again, remember we have for household with minors, we have the minors information on the adult survey. So we would just ask that you put the adults information on the minors youth survey. So that way we can make sure that we're collecting whether that youth is unaccompanied or they're part of a larger household. That is it for the surveys themselves. Again, all of those directions and all of that guidance is available in the guidance document that will get sent out and will also be printed out for everybody for the count. And then the list of FAQs that we went over is also on the last page of the guidance. So you will have all of that available to you as you are surveying for the evening. I know we are a bit over time and I do apologize for that. I just wanted to make sure we kind of got through all of that information for you. That is the last bit of what I had to go over. I'm gonna look at some of the questions in the chat. There was the question about undocumented folks. Obviously, if they don't have like a social because they're undocumented, you can just put don't know or refused. That's okay. We don't generally in prior counts, we've not usually had a super large Hispanic population that's experiencing homelessness that we've been able to find and survey. So that it doesn't come up a super lot, but it does come up sometimes. Again, they don't have to provide a social if they don't have one. And I would do your best to make sure if you're coming across anybody that you let them know that you are not part of ICE and you are not there to check if they are a citizen. It's always okay to reiterate to people that you're not there for any malintent or nefarious purposes. Some people hopped off early. I think that was the last question in the chat. Does anybody else who is still on have any other questions?
Nope, I'm good.
Good job, Aaron.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We will be sending all this information out to everybody. And again, it'll be on the website, so you guys will all have the access. I will be fixing some of the typos that I've seen as I'm going through. So all of it will definitely make sense to you guys, hopefully. And again, if you have any questions night of, please feel free to reach out to your county lead. Thank you all for agreeing to participate.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See ya. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you. Have a
you.
good evening.
Have